What's up guys, Colin Beisel here from CB Builds, and today I'm going to be showing you how to replace the inner cartridge seals on your Showa style fork. We're going to replace these guys. It's a very neglected job. Let's dive right in. Alright guys, so we're starting off with the inner cartridge already removed on this fork. There are a million videos out there showing you how to do a general fork rebuild, so we're not going to cover that. If you're not sure how to remove this from your fork, go ahead and look up one of those videos for your style of fork. So for us, we've got the inner cartridge out in the vise. You're going to take your fork cap wrench to hold that outer. For me, it's a 17mm, just so we can break this inner cap loose. Once it's loose, since you're in the vise, you no longer need that fork cap wrench. So just spin this inner cartridge off. Alright, once it starts clicking, that means you're good, you're all the way out. So we're going to go ahead and take this guy out of the vise and make sure you've got some sort of oil pan handy. Next, you're going to separate these two. It helps to push the inner cartridge rod down on the ground. You might not be able to see this, but I'm just pushing that down. Once I've got enough grip, I can now wiggle this out by hand. Round and round, wiggle, wiggle. You're going to hear it break loose. Now this is your compression stack and spring. Go ahead and set that somewhere where it can drain. Yeah, you might not be able to see, but like I said, these are brand new bushings. They got 3 hours on them. I just neglected to do these inner seals when I rebuilt them last time. Don't do what I did. Rebuild them, replace them the first time. So now you're going to take this guy, dump it in your pan, and go ahead and pull the rod in and out to drain that fluid. Go ahead and do that a couple times. Alright, and I am going to put mine back in the vise, upside down, and let this guy drain. The next thing you're going to do is screw off this retainer. So this is just kind of a lock nut for the lower stack. Mine is, finger tight, so no need for a tool there, but find the appropriate wrench if needed and get that guy loosened off. So this is also what keeps your rod from breaking through, or from falling out, I should say, of the cartridge. Set that guy aside, and then slowly push this guy out. And you've got to get through the seal there, so you might have to push a little bit. But once you've done that, your rod's going to come out. Alright, so now that we've got that off, you're going to grab your drill. Like I said, mark this at 1.6mm. And we're going to be drilling these peen holes out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go slow, put your drill on the slow setting. This is aluminum, it's really soft, so no need to get crazy here. Check your work. Almost. Let's go a little bit more. Alright. That is good. Alright. So we've got all 4 peen marks drilled out. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little bit of heat into these threads. Sometimes from the factory they may put blue or red Loctite. So we're just going to break up anything that's binding these two together. About 60 seconds should do. Alright guys, so if you don't have an impact wrench, just use your standard socket with that 17mm. That's going to go right here. And on the bottom, there is a spot where you can throw just a regular wrench to kind of keep the cartridge from spinning. For me, I'm going to use an impact on this because it's just going to make things a little bit quicker, and we're not going to get too crazy. We'll just give it a few zaps and see if it's moving. If not, we'll go through and just drill a little bit more on each of them. Careful, it's hot. Alright, so we broke that free. So I'm going to come back and now be a little bit more delicate with it and use a wrench. Just so we can feel how much resistance there is. Oh, that's perfect. Alright, so we've got that guy out. Might drop. And remember, it's hot, so don't burn yourself. And so you can see where the peen marks are here. And we did go into the threads just a little bit, but you know, the rest of the threads are fine. It's not going to do any harm. We'll just make sure that we clean this out real well when we go to put it back together. So if you can see, this blue guy is your inner cartridge seal. Ours, surprisingly, is pretty much intact. So just get yourself some suspension cleaner. Make sure you're cleaning out any of that metal residue, or metal shavings I should say, from the threads. So again, there's our inner cartridge. It's really pretty impressive that these seals are still intact. So go ahead and take your flathead or your pick, pop that under there. This one came out real easy. And again, I'm really surprised that this is original. It's still pretty compliant. Looks like there's a few little nicks in it, but overall, I mean, for its age, it's in pretty damn good shape. We've got a spacer or a shim. And in here, it's going to be kind of hard to see, but there is a bushing. And I'm just going to show it to you, show you the new one. And then here's the bushing that's down in there. So now we've pulled out that old seal, and you can kind of see the difference, the brightness of the, you know, the Viton here. But always just compare your seals, make sure that they're the right size. The new one is always going to be just a tiny bit bigger. You know, rubber shrinks up over time. So set that aside. Take your inner cartridge end cap. Again, throw it in the vise. Secure that safely. Find the appropriate size chisel or whatever, you know, method you want to use. Just be careful, especially when you're starting it. Kind of go in at an angle, make my mark. So this is a real tedious process, but take your time, slow and controlled, and you will get this bushing out. Alright, so now that you've probably destroyed a screwdriver or two, maybe even a chisel, you've got it opened up, go ahead and grab this, what's left of this bearing, and pull that son of a bitch out. Get out the old suspension clean. Give that guy a good wash. And then you can see the carnage you may or may not have caused. Just take some sandpaper or emery cloth, roll it up, So, got that pretty well smoothed out. Again, hit it with the suspension clean. Now you've got your new bush. Just go ahead and get that started by hand. Just go ahead and evenly tap it until you get flush with the cap. Then you're going to need to find a socket that fits that diameter perfectly. So for me, I believe this 3/8 socket worked pretty well on the last one. So go ahead and get that in there. And just slowly tap her in. Make sure you check she's going in straight. Okay. I think we're pretty much, that is home. So now we are going to put the washers or spacers that came out back into that cap. You can take your new Viton O-ring or seal, and the flat side is going to go down in the hole. Just go ahead and push that guy in by hand. Make sure he's evenly seated. That looks good. So we're going to go ahead, take this guy out of the vise. Make sure you check the threads on this. Make sure there's no super sharp burrs. And that it's clean. Set that aside. Go ahead and grab your inner cartridge again. And I like to check these peens are cleanly drilled through. So I'm going to put the drill to fast now. Run that guy through a few times. Make sure that it's cleaned up. And I can see that one of my holes wasn't quite through, so I could have gone a little bit deeper. But better safe than sorry, in my opinion. Alright, those are cleared up. Again, find yourself some Red Loctite. Because these peens are no longer there, there's no secondary kind of locking mechanism, so we're just going to put a good amount of Loctite on, because honestly, this thing's not ever going to come out again in the time that I own it. So, screw that guy in, grab your wrench with your 17 Allen head on there, screw this guy back on. That squeaking's just my soft jaw. So if it starts spinning, just grab your adjustable wrench, hook it to the base here, and hold that guy with one hand while you tighten this with the other. So just get this seated, and then just a quick cinch, that's all you need. We don't need to get crazy on this. Again, more suspension clean. Make sure you get any little shavings that might have come out while we were tightening that. We're going to slide this retainer back on. We're going to put this lock ring back on. Again, just careful, don't let these things fly. Push it down with your fingers, make sure it's in the groove. And then the last thing we're going to do, we'll put the rod back in. And what we're going to do is we're going to pack these threads just full of all-purpose grease. That way when they're coming through the seal, it doesn't damage that seal that we just spent half a day putting in. Alright, now we're going to very carefully lower the rod. See if we can jimmy that through. Alright, so my threads are through here. So I am going to grab a rag. And try to work this through. So we're already here, so let's go ahead and spin this nut on. We're gonna get it all the way down. You can see almost all the grease kind of came off in that seal area. But listen to how tight that is. And it stays up by itself now, which is awesome. All the way to the top. Awesome, guys, thanks for watching. From here on out, you're just going to reassemble your fork, standard fork rebuild, and you're good to go.